Scientists are concerned that over the course of 180 million years, the Y chromosome has declined and that men could go extinct in 6 million years. Yeah. So, ladies, hang in there. You'll get your little president.
Yes, it's toxic, isn't it? These toxic people. Because you won't have electricity or airplanes or cellular telephones or hospitals or any of that stuff, but I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun regardless. That's my thinking. But I'm kind of old-fashioned when it comes to this sort of thing. Well, happy Monday, and welcome back. Boy, what a weekend it was. See, President Trump at the UFC fight at Madison Square Garden with lots of fun people from Kid Rock to Elon Musk, and the list was long and somewhat distinguished. It was quite remarkable, actually. The big gathering in New York City, Madison Square Garden. Dan Bongino was there. Lots and lots of people were there from the Trump cabinet to be, and lots and lots of interesting stuff going on there, no doubt about it. Also, there was an amazing story over the weekend that I wanted to share with you because the Washington Post, it's not actually a newspaper. It's a filthy front group for the radical Islamists and the Democrat Party. But what's the difference? And I've got some Joe and Mika coming up too because they honestly, it's boxcars for them. They need the boxcars. But over the weekend, the Washington Post, they pretend to put out news stories that aren't news stories at all. They're radical extremist propaganda. And one of the stories that they put out of the weekend really got our attention at home on the couch with my best girl and with me. The headline is, Donald Trump has a long list of executive actions he says he wants to carry out on his potential first day back in the White House. Isn't he the president-elect? Hasn't he already won the presidential election? What is it that the Washington Post is driving at here? What do you think they're saying here? His potential first day. Now, we know that Kamala does not have a potential first day, and Joe Biden, no potential first day for him. Really, for him, no first days for anything anymore at this point. But wait a minute, the Washington Post, in their headline, on his potential first day back in the White House. What are you guys planning on bringing out more of your fellow travelers with rifles? Or maybe it's Democrat Congressman Jamie Raskin who said that they will obstruct the Congress and launch an insurrection. I think that's what Jamie Raskin was saying, right? Have an insurrection and not seat President Trump, not approve the Electoral College vote because they're insurrectionists, just like Democrat Congressman Jamie Raskin. Amazing stuff. But wait a minute, his potential. And so that's kind of a peculiar word in this context, isn't it? How is it only a potential? What, wouldn't you just say that President Trump has a long list of executive actions he says he wants to carry out on his first day back in the White House? I think that's what normal, non-bloodthirsty, non-jackals would write if they were just journalists. But because they're savage, cop car burning, baby sacrificing leftists, they instead say on his potential first day back in the White House. How do you plan on preventing him from having another first day in the White House in his second term? Like Grover Cleveland, not since Grover Cleveland. Isn't that amazing? And the Washington Post continues, among them, they do love their colons. Begin mass deportations. That's of illegal alien criminals. The Democrats want more illegal alien criminals in your daughter's bedroom and in your daughter's classroom because the Democrat Party is really sick in the head, honestly. So the among them, begin mass deportations, eliminate perks for electric vehicles so that rich people on Martha's Vineyard are buying $130,000 electric cars. From Elon Musk, by the way, who they now despise, although they used to admire him as though he were the savior. Remarkable stuff. Eliminate perks for electric vehicles. See, because those perks are going to all their friends. They're going to their friends that make the electric vehicles, now persona non grata Elon Musk. But moving on from that, The rest go to their friends who buy these excessively expensive fashion accessories known as electric vehicles. And, of course, their friends are manufacturing them, so they build in the tax breaks and the rewards and the kickbacks because it benefits their political donors, their donor class. They should donate their brains because I know we need some more abnormal brains for research. Isn't that amazing? So begin mass deportations, eliminate perks for electric vehicles, and ban transgender women, that means men, from women's sports. And at the Washington Post, these are all bad things because they're shills and hacks for the radical left and the organ harvesters. You know how they are. Amazing stuff. But the key to this whole headline is President Trump's potential first day back in the White House. Is that a threat? I think the Secret Service should go over and maybe a pre-dawn raid with battering rams and helmets and things, body armor to batter some doors down and go in and, shoot a household dog or two and drag Washington Post people out of their homes and lots of nice colonials in upper northwest Washington, D.C., drag them out in cuffs and find out, what do you mean, his potential first day in office? What exactly do you have in mind? I want to know about that. So I think Secret Service and FBI should be on the case here. This is not what should be allowed. That this is that misinformation, disinformation, or is it a threat? Either way, I think Hillary Clinton would say that there should be civil, if not criminal, penalties available for the people that wrote this headline because you know how dangerous they are, these people.
There are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda, and whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence.
For speech, criminally charged for speech. That's the communist, fascist, little Hitler, Eva Braun. You think she dresses... She likes the Gestapo or the Waffen-SS at home. Which one do you think she likes more? Both very snappy outfits. Ask Hugo Boss, because Hugo Boss designing the Nazi uniforms. Isn't that amazing? In the meantime, the Democrats, they're still fighting in Pennsylvania, right? Because they want to steal a Senate seat by counting the votes of people, illegal votes. They want to count as many. The Democrats are clawing and scratching to count as many illegal votes as possible, because they don't care about the law. They care about power, and they'll steal everything that they can steal. Now, Elon Musk, who did spend much of his weekend with President Trump, he was at Madison Square Garden for the big UFC fight. President Trump was there where he was greeted like a conquering hero, just by the way. I mean, it was like Eisenhower coming down Fifth Avenue at the end of World War II. But never mind that. Elon Musk tweeting over the weekend. He tweeted, "They're openly trying to count illegal ballots in Pennsylvania!" ! Unreal! Ellipsis. And then he posted the Bucks County, Pennsylvania GOP tweet, which has a pound sign. And they have 3 red lights here. And the pound sign, pound Bucks County Democrat commissioners violate the rule of law and ignore Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling! Democrat commissioners Diane Marseglia and Bob Harvey voted today to count illegal ballots against the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling in an attempt to aid former Senator Bob Casey, who still hasn't conceded because he's an election denier and a fascist. Really, he's how far is he from being Hitler? I think he's about this far. I'm holding my right index finger about a half an inch over my right thumb. Just about that much. Bump, bump, bump. About that much. How close is he, Bob Casey? Really, maybe a pre-dawn raid with a CNN camera crew across the street and FBI people in body armor with helmets and spotlights and battering rams. And then they can stage photos and feed the photos to the left-wing news media. What do you think? Man, oh, man. So we've got, honestly, Elon Musk calling it out. He knows a thing or two about a thing or two. And the Bucks County Republicans pointing out that the Democrat commissioners by name, Diane Marseglia and Bob Harvey, are counting illegal ballots. And the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has already ruled that they can't use ballots that are not signed, that are not dated. But the Democrats are just ginning up ballots that are not signed and not dated and counting them because they want to steal the election and they want to steal control of the United States Senate because they're like Nazis. Honestly, they're like third world. They're like third world. And what's the difference? Whatever kind of third world authoritarian you are. You got your Nazis, you got your communists, whatever. They could dine together and rarely find matters on which to disagree. That's the thing about these people, isn't it? Yes, it is. We've got a lot to get to today. Those are the things that just were gnawing at me this morning when I came in. Gnawing, I tell you. So when Trump won the first time, New York resisted. Now, this is the New York Times headline, now it's complicated. New Yorkers resisted. Now it's complicated. You guys stop looting everything, right? Stop robbing all the drugstores in New York. Stop shooting people. Stop throwing women in front of subway trains. Stop being Democrats in New York. How about that? But that's the New York Times. When Trump won the first time, New York resisted. Now it's complicated. Also, the Washington Post, a petri dish of it's worse than the lunch dishes at the Wuhan wet market. Honestly, at the Washington Post, Trump win places immediate focus on immigration enforcement. You mean illegal aliens? It's not immigration. It's illegal aliens. It's like saying you're cracking down on drivers when you're really cracking down on drunk drivers. See, this weekend, St. Patrick's Day. I know it's not St. Patrick's Day this weekend. Hey, there's a crackdown on drunk driving. And the Democrats just lose the word drunk and say, oh, they're cracking down on driving. It's the same thing that they're doing with illegal aliens because they're filth and they're corrupt and they're the Washington Post. And they think that, Donald Trump, you got to worry about him because, he's got what are they calling it now? A potential first day back in the White House at the Washington Post. Honestly, ought to be a raid. There should be a federal law enforcement raid. What do they know that we don't know? His potential first day back in the White House. Please, can I just say? Bump, bump, bump. Also, Trump support dominates weekend in sports as athletes perform president-elect's dance moves. Did you see this all over the NFL this weekend and all over college football, too? The players, when they have a victorious moment, scoring a touchdown or a great catch, the players in the NFL and in college football are stopping to do the Trump dance. I'm doing it right now. I'm in a chair, but I'm doing the Trump dance where, you pump the arms like this. You got your left arm and your right arm, and you pump them like this, and you do that. You kind of dip your head down a little bit, and you go like this with your knees, and you do the Trump dance. And the Trump dance is everywhere this weekend. And it's kind of funny because some of the lefties are very upset, think that this dance represents a cultural sea change in the United States of America, a cultural shift. Also, it's important to note, I'll get to that the left, and that means the filthy news media, they're spending all of their venom attacking Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a lifelong Democrat, Elon Musk, who was a hero of the Democrat Party until he bought Twitter and took away their corruption tool from them. Amazing stuff. They're attacking Pete Hegseth, who served in the Army in Iraq, unlike Tim Walz, for example, with a rifle and everything like that. They're attacking everybody. All of Trump's picks must be attacked. They must be smeared. They must be destroyed because what they do. And for some reason, Donald Trump met with Mo Yarborough and his semi-inflatable flotation device of a third wife, Mika Brzezinski. What happened to that girl in Joe Scarborough's office anyway? But a time for a new approach from Joe and Mika. Are you kidding me? I've got a recommendation for the Trump White House when it comes to Joe and Mika. It does not involve more meetings with them. That's for sure. Amazing stuff. And also in Washington, D.C., they're panicking. What Trump's, because he may cut the size of the federal government, what Trump may mean for federal workers, remote work, and Metro. The Metro, that's our subway system here. Amazing stuff. Debbie Was-A-Man Schnitz with her tattooed face. She says Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset because, honestly, we're going to have to arrest Was-A-Man Schultz, I think. She's Was-A-Man, right? Her maiden name is Was-A-Man. She was early in on that whole Was-A-Man thing. Isn't it amazing? Yes, sir. And MSNBC guest who went after Pete Hegseth facing backlash. They're just pursuing like the pack of bloodthirsty jackals that they are on the Sierra. They're coming for blood because that's the Democrat Party. And what does the Washington Post mean? President Trump's potential first day back in office. We are at 888-630-9625. Let's go to the telephones and talk to the nice people, to Americans who love sanity and not crazy people like every single Democrat. Let's go to Lee. Coincidentally, I think, calling from Leesburg, Virginia. Lee, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. How are you doing today?
Very well, Lee. Thank you.
Oh, terrific. Good to talk to you. It's been a long time, but I really appreciate listening to your show every morning, but I can't really talk much anymore. But I can today. And one thing I wanted to comment about and just kind of get your reflection on is that there's been a lot of postmortem about what the Democrat Party has done wrong over the past, since the election. And in my view, this is about the Democrats making everything about the Democrat Party again. And myself, I'm not really interested in what they did wrong. I'm not interested in their ideas. I'm not interested in their vitriol. I'm not interested in their hate. I don't want to hear about them anymore. As far as I'm concerned, the Democrat Party could just go away because all they've been is trouble in this country since the Civil War onward and through today. And I'm not interested in them anymore. And I listened to their people. I was, what made really keyed me on this, I was listening to an interview with Bill Maher and William Shatner. And I was listening to William Shatner explain why he was like miffed. He just like gobsmacked. Like, why wouldn't people vote for Kamala Harris? And he's talking about, well, she's black. She's a woman. I think we can say she's a woman. She's bringing down inflation. And I listen to them. These people are just, they're not even, they might as well not even be in this country. And so I don't really see any, really kind of unity that can come with these people because they're not really interested in it. And they're not even attached enough to this country to even make a reasonable comment about it. So,
well, you're calling them out. You've got a problem, Lee. You've been paying attention, and you're capable of remembering things that happened a week ago and a year ago and 5 years ago. And that's a big problem for the Democrats. You're absolutely right, though. And from the Civil War forward, the Democrat Party has been nothing but a violent gang of bullwhip, crack, and rabble. The Reverend Al Charlatan, who is a racist, an anti-Semite, anti-American. Crown Heights riots, Tawana Brawley, velour jogging suits. I miss the velour jogging suits, I think, more than the gasoline-colored hair, but that's me. The Reverend Al Charlatan, he's plotting and scheming, is engaged in a conspiracy to launch an inauguration day protest in Washington, D.C., because, these guys, can I just say these guys? And so the Reverend Al Charlatan, on Inauguration Day, they should really just come in January 6th. You can storm the Capitol, and maybe Lieutenant Michael Byrd can come out and shoot you or shoot one of you for the alleged crime of trespassing. Remarkable stuff. But the Reverend Al Charlatan, they pay him 7 figures on MSDNC to spread his stuff, It's like, it's kind of like the political equivalent of genital herpes is the Reverend Al. But the Reverend Al was on his TV show last night, and he's threatening or promising, depending on how you look at it, a protest of Al Charlatan followers on Inauguration Day in Washington, D.C.
And I'm urging you to not sit around just complaining about the results of the election pro or con.
Burn
Or
yourself.
stop the bedwetting of who coulda and shoulda and woulda done more.
See?
But all of us need to move forward with action. That's why I, in my capacity as president of National Action Network, has said on Martin Luther King holiday, January 20th, while Trump is being inaugurated and being sworn in on one side of D.C., we're going to have a rally on another side of D.C. Not to protest Trump, but to protect Dr. King's dream.
What? Huh? Well, because the Trump administration, we had the lowest African-American unemployment rate ever, had the greatest economic growth in African-American community, I think, in the history of the planet Earth. And maybe that's a slight embellishment, but then maybe it's not. That is pretty crazy stuff. So, wait a minute. He's trying to gather a mob of Reverend Al worshipers to come to Washington on Inauguration Day, and it's got nothing to do with Trump. It's just Martin Luther King Day. Is that correct? I am telling you. Yeah, the Reverend Al. That had to go well. And when he says the other side of Washington, D.C., I have no idea that he's lying, no doubt, rather, that he's lying about that, because it'll probably be the other end of the mall, with the Capitol at one end of the mall, the Washington Monument in the middle, and then the Lincoln Memorial down at the other end of the mall. I'm guessing that the other end of the mall is probably, but not the other side of the city or the other end of the city. Isn't that amazing? Al Sharpton plans a rally against Trump. See, it's an MLK rally as Trump inauguration is taking place. Oh, what could go wrong with that? It's probably nothing at all. But I think U.S. Capitol Police Lieutenant Michael Byrd should be called in. And if anybody needs to be shot for allegedly trespassing, then Lieutenant Michael Byrd of the U.S. Capitol Police could shoot them. And maybe just shoot him in the legs like Joe Biden recommends, because he thinks that's a good idea, doesn't he? The left-wingers at the Hill published a little press release for Al Sharpton. Reverend Al Sharpton, a.k.a. Al Charlatan, as his mom calls him, plans to hold a rally in protest of President-elect Trump on Inauguration Day. Now, he lied that it's not against Trump. It's just, Martin Luther King. It's pro-Martin Luther King, not anti-Trump. But that's because he lies about everything that he says. If he's speaking, he's the Reverend Al Sharpton. Sharpton announced the rally on his MSDNC show, Politics Nation, with Al Sharpton. The rally and Trump's inauguration coincide with Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Well, since Inauguration Day is always on January 20th every 4 years, and Martin Luther King Day, it just coincides because it's a moving target. You see, while Trump supporters will be on one side of Washington watching him take the oath of office, I will be at the nation's capital. He says at the nation's capital. Now, at the nation's capital is where the inauguration is taking place, and that's not the other side of D.C., is it? I told you he was lying, and here it comes. I will be at the nation's capital working to keep the dream alive. If you're the one keeping the dream alive, then the dream is in big trouble. Can I just say that? There has never been a more important time to peacefully organize and mobilize. Stop burning police cars. Stop burning banks. Stop smashing out storefronts and looting the place. Stop attacking police officers and injuring them by the thousands. Stop shooting people. How about that? Just a thought. So the Reverend Al, he's got plans in mind. And if you can't trust him, to do the right thing, then who can you trust? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, well, good luck with that one.
Exactly right. And, all of this, I think, is part of, he wants to resist, doesn't he? He has to, the Reverend Al Sharpton. It's not just, he's not protesting for or against, because right now the Democrat Party, they're all about resisting.
But resist we much. We must and we will much about that be committed.
See, you can understand why so many people follow him like he's a messiah of sorts. Isn't that amazing?
I have to be the most inept charlatan in the country.
I like to think so, but I'm not sure. There's a lot of competition for that. You got a whole Democrat Party and media universe out there, the Circle Fest and the Hot Tub. We've also got the New York Times. There's such frauds and charlatans at the New York Times. It's just amazing what the New York Times has done in their attack. I think we have the RFK audio, don't we, of RFK telling about what's wrong with Fruit Loops, because he's done interview after interview about Fruit Loops and about cereals and about toxins in our foods, and especially kids and all that stuff. And the New York Times, their headline is RFK Jr.'s vow to take on big food. Big food. It's always big. It's got its big pharma, saves more lives than the United Nations every year by a factor of about 200. But never mind that. And got big oil, which gives us cheap and abundant energy so Grandma doesn't freeze to death when the winter time comes. And now they've got big food. That means you're the bad guy when they put the word big in front of you, right? So the New York Times, frauds and charlatans that they are, RFK Jr.'s vow to take on big food could face resistance. See, more of that, resist we much, because amazing stuff. Now, the clowns at the New York Times, they typed over the weekend on behalf of the left wing and the Democrat Party, processed foods are in the crosshairs of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but battling major companies could collide, like the New York Times, could collide with President-elect Donald J. Trump's corporate-friendly goals. See, his goals are corporate-friendly, right? That's the thing. How dare you be corporate-friendly? And Christina Jewett and Julie Cresswell typing on behalf of the extreme left in the page of the New York Times. And they're attacking Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Why are they attacking Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you might want to know? Well, because he, lifelong Democrat, Kennedy family, he crossed the Rubicon. He sat with Donald Trump. He agreed to serve as a Democrat in the cabinet of a Republican president who they say is Hitler and a fascist and an extremist and a threat to democracy. And now here comes Kennedy family member. He's a certified charter member of the Kennedy family. And he's been fighting against this food thing for years and years. Oh, and he wants vaccines to be safe, but he says he's not anti-vaccine. But the Democrats, they don't care. They just eliminate words, and then they take what you've said, they change it till it's no longer what you've said, then they attack you for what you didn't say. That's what they do. And the Times says brightly, that's a boxes of brightly colored breakfast cereals, vivid orange Doritos, and dazzling blue M&Ms may find themselves under attack in a new Trump administration. In excoriating such grocery store staples and their mysterious ingredients, Robert F. Kennedy tapped into a zeitgeist of widening appeal for healthy foods to curb obesity and disease that helped propel President Donald J. Trump to select him to oversee the country's vast health agency. Now, Robert F. Kennedy said, then they quote Robert F. Kennedy, he says, "We are betraying our children by letting these industries poison them," Kennedy said at a campaign rally November 2nd to raucous applause. You mean a Trump campaign rally, but they left out the word Trump there, didn't they? As Mr. Trump's choice to head the Department of Health and Human Services, he would have far-reaching authority. They love authority, don't they? I fight authority. Authority always wins. He would have far-reaching authority over the Food and Drug Administration, which regulates about 80% of the nation's food supply, but apparently not very well. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did an interview. He's done more than one interview. This one, I think, is PBS. Is it PBS where he did this interview where he's laying out the Michael doesn't know. He pulled the audio and put it in the cut sheet, but it can't say for sure. But Robert F. Kennedy talking about the cereals and the colored dyes and the things that make it last long on the grocery store shelf and on your kitchen shelf. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
In Europe, the same companies are producing the same products, but they're using natural coloring. But here they can get away with it. We have about almost 1,000 chemicals that are in our food that are either outright banned in Europe or actively discouraged. So you wouldn't be able to buy this kind of stuff in Europe.
Now, Kennedy has been out there talking about all the nastiness that is put in our processed foods, our heavily processed foods, in particular breakfast cereals, which are particularly popular with kids. And the dyes that they use, the yellow dyes, the red dyes, have been banned in Europe. They've been banned in Canada. They've been banned elsewhere in the world, but they're not banned here. They've been banned for health reasons in Europe and Canada and beyond. And he is trying to sound the alarm and say, well, wait a minute. You know, it's like our friends and allies have all banned these things. Why haven't we?
If you look at a pack of Fruit Loops in this country, it's all chemical dyes, yellow, blue, red dye, which are poison. In Canada, across the border, Fruit Loops are a different color. They're all colored by vegetable oils. It's the same company. It knows, that company, Kellogg's, knows how to create safer products that don't have chemicals in them because they're illegal to create those products, to sell those products in Europe, Canada, other countries.
Now, the New York Times attacking him today because he's no longer singing from the Democrat Party's sheet music, and that can't be allowed, so that he must be destroyed, just as Pete Hegseth must be destroyed. They've dug into and investigated years ago in California at a convention of some kind, months after Pete Hegseth broke up with his second wife. He encountered a woman. The woman says that they had sex in a hotel room. And the news media has investigated this more than they've investigated Jeffrey Epstein from start to finish. They've investigated Pete Hegseth more than Jeffrey Epstein, and that is no joke. They literally have spent more time, energy, devoted more resources to attacking and investigating, trying to undermine the nomination of Pete Hegseth, a Fox News anchor, a military veteran, a decorated military veteran from Iraq and Afghanistan, and he served at Guantanamo Bay, unlike certain people that tried to become vice president of the United States. But the New York Times attacking Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK's vow to take on big food could face resistance, and the resistance begins with the New York Times. And they attack him, and they got a picture of all these grocery store cereals. They've got Fruit Loops scoops, and they got Crave and Frosted Krispies and Apple Jacks, Apple Jacks, and then Fruit Loops again. And the New York Times goes on, and you have to go through. If you print it out, you have to go to page 4 of the printout of the New York Times story. And I just played Robert F. Kennedy talking about the yellow dye, the red dye, the blue dye that are illegal in other countries. And the New York Post, the New York Times, they attack him and they smear him. They call him all kinds of names. And then buried in the story on page 4, Mr. Kennedy has singled out Fruit Loops as an example of a product with too many artificial ingredients, questioning why the Canadian version has fewer than U.S. version, has fewer. They're talking about dyes and fewer ingredients, which are not so good. And he says, but he was wrong. Listen to this. This is the New York Times attacking him. They say, Mr. Kennedy singled out Fruit Loops as an example, product with too many artificial ingredients, questioning why the Canadian version has fewer artificial ingredients than the U.S. version. But he was wrong. The ingredients list is roughly the same. Roughly is the only important word there. Although Canada's has natural colorings made from blueberries and carrots, while the U.S. product contains red dye 40, yellow dye 5, and blue 1, as well as, I love this, butylated hydroxytunium, or BHT, a lab-made chemical that is used, quote, for freshness, end quote, according to the ingredients label. Now they just proved him right. That's exactly what he said. But they attack him for being right, and they literally said, but he was wrong. And then the next two sentences prove that he was 100% right. Just amazing. No, this is exactly what he was talking about. He's talking about red dye 40, yellow dye number 5, and blue dye number 1, as well as butylated hydroxytoluene, whatever the hell it is, BHT, a lab-made chemical. And that's what he's saying. He said, well, why don't they have those things in the cereals in Canada or in Western Europe? That's the question he's raising. then they admit that he's right about everything he said while saying right out, but he was wrong. They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. All awards ever given to the New York Times should be taken back. All recalled. Every one of them. Also, the Democrats are attacking Tulsi Gabbard as a Russian spy while they're having sex with Chinese spies. The Democrats see Eric Swalwell and beyond. Let's go to the telephones. Let's go to, and they're just attacking every Trump nominee viciously, ruthlessly. They don't care if it's true or not. They're digging up, a woman from 8 years ago at a hotel, and it's the usual Democrat Party stuff. Meanwhile, you know what they're doing. Let's go to Don, calling from the great state of Nebraska. Donald, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hello, Chris. 2 questions, if I may. One rhetorical, one serious. Are the same people opposing Robert Kennedy the same people that supported Michelle Obama's healthy school lunch program? It seems like a double standard to me. And they love their double standards.
They do.
The second one being the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania said that they can't count those illegal votes, and those election commissioners are doing it anyways. Why isn't the Pennsylvania Supreme Court stepping in saying, stop, we told you no? Why are they allowing it to still go on when they already said no? Who's stepping in to say, hey, you're not allowed to do this? I don't get it.
Well, that is a very good couple of questions, really, and I think the Republicans have to, once again, because they took him to court. They took him to, and they brought it to the state Supreme Court, the Republicans did, with what they were doing, counting the illegal votes, unsigned votes, and the court, the state Supreme Court, made it clear that what the Democrats were doing was illegal, and they said, oh, well, we'll do it with a yellow pen instead of with a green pen, and we'll start over again. So the Democrats, because crime is their game, from, looting your local drugstore to Louis Vuitton and the rest, loot lemon, amazingly. I think the Republicans are going to have to take them back to court again to stop them again.